Calling all freaks. Listen all you motherfuckers!
Here we are with another platitude. This one from a Facebook group called Women Without Religion. Subtitles, "It's time to start telling your male colleagues that they are pretty." And the platitude itself is as follows. At work, him. This, quote, sexual harassment shit is fucking ridiculous. What, now I can't even tell a woman she's pretty without getting in shit for it? Me. Well, I've worked together for 2 years and you've never told me I'm pretty. Him. That's different because you're a dude like me. Me. I gotta tell you, that's a little disappointing because I think you're pretty. Him. Cut that shit, bro. You're creeping me out. Me. So, me telling you that you're pretty when you neither asked for nor welcomed comments about your appearance is making you feel uncomfortable. Interesting. So when I say me in that platitude, that's the point of view of the author. And it's a shit view. Number one, it assumes innate homophobia as a method to send home a point that women don't want to be complimented on their appearance. The problem I have with platitudes is that they presume much in the way of quote-unquote common wisdom, while being incredibly facetious. They're far too broad a brush and very seldomly applicable to much of any real life at all, but yet they're taken as, conventional wisdom. It's absolutely ridiculous. So my response to this, just to tweak the poster, was that, yeah, you should compliment more often, because we don't hear it almost ever. And yeah, that's going to make us uncomfortable, because we're just not used to being complimented. It's very uncommon for anybody to compliment a man on their appearance, let alone in the workplace or anywhere else. I mean, the best you might get is your mom saying, "Oh, you look handsome, son," which, true or not, is obligatory from a mom. So what's wrong with compliments in the workplace? Especially if they're sincere. The problem with this is it leads to everybody to bobblehead and say, yeah, all women get that. All women don't get that. Attractive women probably do get it more often than they would like, but that's just part and parcel of being attractive. We shouldn't have to curb our behavior to simply appease them and make them not feel creeped out. We're not responsible whether they feel creeped out or not. I mean, if a compliment is just honest and not ill-intended, there should be no problem with compliments at all. And to that effect, I got into it with an unthinking moron. After I posted, that, hey, yeah, you should probably compliment guys more often, I got a multitude of responses that accused me of missing the point. But that's just because they can't get out of their ingrained, rigid thinking. So, of course, they accuse me of missing the point, being uneducated. That's usually the go-to for unthinking morons, is they accuse you of being uneducated. So they accuse me of missing the point. So I told them, see, that's where you're wrong. I got the point. I just disagree with it. So I turned it into something else other than the bobblehead groupthink. But, you can go right on ahead and think you're clever for calling me out on missing the point that most certainly was so obvious as to be unmissable. And then one chucklehead decides that he's going to come back at me because he's got the stronger position. He doesn't. I mean, that's typical here, but he says he gave me the benefit of the doubt, hoping that I was just ignorant, rather than an arrogant, flippant asshole. Notice he immediately went to asshole, simply for disagreeing with the point, not following the common wisdom, not falling in line with the think. So, yeah, he's welcome to be mistaken about where I was coming from, but he's outwardly lying about giving me the benefit of the doubt. So, as far as towing the line, yeah, I don't. It's, most compliments are just that, a compliment. They come from a good point. Somebody just trying to be nice and make somebody feel good about themselves. Hashtag not all, because you gotta frickin' do that these days and make sure that you're not playing with absolutes. But if you think that most compliments to a woman based on appearance have ulterior motives, you live in a really dark world. And I don't want to be a part of that world. I want to be a part in a world where we're actually friendly with each other and compliment people when they deserve it and when they earn it and when they need it. To curb that language because I might offend somebody is a horribly dark way of going about life. So I pointed that out to him, and he says, I missed the point again, simply because my quote-unquote benign compliment might seem very different to someone else. Okay, but that's not on me. That's on them. I mean, I can't control how they receive it. All I can do is know that I've paid an honest compliment. Now, if I pay a compliment with the ulterior motive of trying to seduce a woman or whatever, get in her good graces or whatever, yeah, I mean, that's not necessarily well intended. But that's not taking into account my situation, which is I'm a happily married man and I'm not going to do that. So the assumption that all men are just out to get some and are only paying compliments with ulterior motives, again, it's just a dark place to be. And if you're one of those guys that's the only reason you're paying people compliments, check yourself, man. You need help. But, I mean, just fighting against this quote-unquote common wisdom and disagreeing with these goddamn platitudes that are so saccharine and so unapplicable to real life in our environment. So, yeah, I'm the bad guy for making a compliment because of how it's going to be received. I said, you know what, thank you for obliging and proving my point. You labeled me an asshole simply because I disagreed with you. But I'd rather be thought of an asshole than bullied into silence. And that's my point. It's contrary to this platitude bullshit. He came back again and said, I don't know how to convince you that you should care about other people. Again, this is left-handed bullshit. Number one, it assumes that I don't know what I'm talking about. It assumes that I don't care. Always attributing negative, worse malice to the person who disagrees with the stupid groupthink, rather than, hey, you might have a valid point, or hey, that's a different angle, let's take that into consideration too. It's never that. It's always, you're an idiot, you don't care about other people, and I don't know how to convince you that you should care about other people, meaning that it's his duty to convince me, to fix the problem with me that I don't care about other people. Not realizing that, no, I do care about people just quite a bit. I just don't operate from the assumption that everybody has ill intent. Just the opposite. The vast majority are good, well-intentioned people. Ones that just don't assume that having differing opinion are assholes for not glomming onto the platitude. He just obliged me. I mean, he just really kind of proved my point, And then he comes back again. He just couldn't get it through his head. He's saying that this isn't about assuming that everyone has ill intent. This is about accepting the simple fact that many women do not like compliments about their appearance coming from men, and making sure that others feel comfortable and safe. Our intentions are irrelevant. What matters is the actual impact we have on others. This is the biggest line of horseshit I have ever heard. Our intentions mean everything. Otherwise, hate crime isn't a thing. Now, I don't think hate crime is a thing at all, but if hate crime is going to be a thing, and I guarantee you this asshole will argue that it's definitely a thing, and I should take that back. I shouldn't call him an asshole, because that's what he did to me. But as we go on, you'll see that that label might actually fit for him. So I said, well, I refute that it's a fact that it's even close to remotely simple. Being forced into second-guessing myself, based on my intent, puts me in a position where I don't feel comfortable nor safe. It's also an incredibly sexist statement. What does it matter if the compliment is coming from a man or a woman? If it's coming from a man and you have a problem with that, that means you are attributing ill intent to the man who's paying you a compliment. Again, maybe that's warranted, but if that's warranted, there's extenuating circumstances, and the platitude doesn't fit. You cannot paint with such a broad brush. It just doesn't work. If intentions weren't real, sexual harassment couldn't be a thing at all. It's the intent behind the compliments, the unwanted advances, that defines the act of sexual harassment. So if there is no intent, there is no crime. And it's not the outcome that matters. It's absolutely the intent. Intent is everything to do with it. It's 100% of everything. Then he goes back to the women do feel uncomfortable about comments regarding their appearance. They say it loud and clear. Listen to them, believe them. Yada, yada, yada. Same line. Listen and believe. Listen and believe. Their reception of a compliment isn't my problem. Their overreaction to it might be my problem, but intent matters. Again, this guy's just wrong about intent. It's not about the outcome, it's about the intent. Again, he accuses me of not caring about other people. So I come back and I tell him, again, I tell you that I do care about other people. Why won't you listen and believe that? Why would you assume that I don't listen to people, both men and women alike? Because this post is by a man and the conversation is 90% of men. A guy posted this platitude, even though it came from a women's group. The only people talking about it are a bunch of dudes. So this feminist advocacy bullshit is just nauseating. I mean, if that's the case, we both need to shut up. And I don't see you shutting up because you think I'm wrong, and you got to fix that. I said, you really need to reevaluate where your assumptions are coming from and why you think that I must comply with your way of thinking on the issue, because right now you are the only one to have leveled a direct insult for not falling into your worldview. Again, he called me an asshole out of the gate. Okay, so it would make it very much likely that I would glom onto his worldview based on his approach. But, he can't see that. He's got to browbeat me into submission. So I suggest, okay, how about this? You do you, and you leave others alone to do them, and then we can both go after the scumbags who don't listen to the women and men who tell them to knock it off, because that's a component that everybody is missing. If you compliment a woman and she receives it in an ill manner, she should tell you, please don't do that. Okay, it's responsible. The first right of rejection is in the woman's power. That's always been the woman's power. You need to set yourself up to a point where you're like, thank you, but don't. Okay? Guys aren't mind readers, especially if they don't have ill intent. If they have ill intent, they might have a clue that, maybe she's not going to receive it well, because if the intent is that transparent, that's going to be a problem. But if the intent is good, guys aren't mind readers. It's going to come out of left field if you accuse them of something that their intent didn't lead them to. Granting everybody their own autonomy and agency, like respectful adults, that's something I suggested to him. He's like, oh, I'm listening, and the fact you don't think that bobblehead groupthink or you go right on ahead and think you are the clever one is insulting illustrates your hypocrisy. Okay. My comments were absolutely snide, and they were meant to be. They're barbed. Bobblehead groupthink is definitely a triggering phrase that I used intentionally because I knew that idiots would bite down on the bait. Okay, fair enough assessment. The difference here is it's not insulting. It's just a statement. Same with one that you go right on ahead and think you are the clever one. Not a direct insult. It's sarcastic and snide. But it's not a direct insult. Whereas, asshole is a direct insult. So he thinks I've made it abundantly clear that I value my personal liberty to do and say what I please above the well-being of people around you. And this is the antithesis for caring for others. I disagree, obviously. Simply because I value my liberty doesn't mean that I don't care about others. That's, again, just a huge, broad generalization. They're not mutually exclusive. They're not hardly even related. Okay? Yes, I value my liberty over somebody else's feelings. Abso-freaking-lutely. I also value my liberty over most other people's well-being. That is to say that I wouldn't go out of my way to help them, but if it results in my losing my liberty, yeah, the answer is going to be no. And you can call me selfish for that. That's fine. It may even be selfish, but it doesn't mean I don't care. And I absolutely refute that you think I would. So there's a huge difference between describing acquiescence to the unthinking platitude in language you find offensive, as well as your lying and flippant response and actually loving a personal insult. You choose to take my words as an insult to you directly and respond with a name-calling pejorative that I choose not to take as offensive despite your clear intent, because I'm not going to let somebody calling me an asshole dissuade me from a damn thing. You don't get to be judged on what is caring for others. By that measure, you've demonstrated your own inability to do that very thing, because he's not caring about me. Because I am outside the group, because I don't glom onto the bullshit. Okay? So I'm fair game to attack, and he doesn't care about my well-being while claiming to care about the well-being of others. So don't go breaking your arm patting your oh-so-virtuous self on the back here. There's a key difference between us. Despite the direct insult upon my perceived character by you, I don't have that level of animosity in kind for you. I'm still assuming you're a good person who wants the world to be a better place. Just one extremely intolerant of divergent worldviews and incredibly narrow-minded. Okay? This is true. I don't hate people based on their inability to get outside of, and think for themselves. It's kind of sad, really. But anyway. So I said, your last sentence is yet another judgment counter to reality. Let go of your hate. It's really ugly. Because he obviously hates me. So he comes back with, you've made it very clear that you'd rather say and do whatever you please than actually consider how you might be about to make somebody else feel. You don't listen, you won't change, you dance around the most straightforward of logical arguments because of your value personal freedom over the needs of others. I have nothing but contempt for you. See, he proves my point right there. I have nothing but contempt for you, and I pity those foolish enough to think they love you. Okay, so he's pitying people who think they love me because I'm contemptible. Okay, then he tries to say P.S. bye, which means he's ejecting himself from this conversation because he just threw in a killing blow. It's obvious he didn't. So I said, yeah, as I said, ugly. And I'll add lacking in self-awareness. You only care about the people that comply with your insistence that they think and act as you decree, as you display in your responses to me. You truly do not care about others, only in making yourself feel good with a false pretense of pride with your ability to signal your supposed but absent virtue. Thank you for helping me illustrate my point. You've been most obliging. Again, he basically proved my point that he's the asshole, not me. For the records, your characterization said I'd rather say and do whatever you please than actually consider how you might be about to make somebody feel are a false and misguided extrapolation of my stating that I will not second-guess a well-intentioned compliment out of fear it won't be received as intended. My intentions are to be nice and to make somebody feel good. Caring about someone enough to make them feel good about themselves. The diametric opposite of how you approach the entire topic. You assumed ill intent and then delivered it by your very statements. This is what gets me about these people, is they absolutely think that your non-compliance with saccharine, unthinking groupthink makes you an evil person. And I can't stand it. You should always question what you're being told. You should always think about it from a different angle. That's why I hate platitudes. I hope to do more of these as I come across them, especially if there's interaction that I get on them. If you have any platitudes that you would like me to dissect and take apart or foist into the public sphere to debunk and then have a response interaction, please let me know. Anyway, I'm going to clean this up and we'll get it out to you. Talk soon.